My dad slapped me in front of 60 people, so I took his entire ranch and left him homeless. People think nurses are soft. They think we just fluff pillows and hold hands, but they've never watched one hold a coding patient together with 2 hands and a steady voice while the monitors scream. I worked 9 years in an ICU. I ran rapid responses at 3 o'clock in the morning. I looked seasoned surgeons in the eye and told them they were wrong. And I was right enough times that they listened. So I need you to understand something before I go on. I'm not a woman who folds, but for 22 years, I believed I owed my father absolutely everything. The context? My name is Hildy. I'm 31 years old. I came back to Caldwell County 8 months ago because Roy had a triple bypass and there was no one else to drive him to cardiac rehab. That is a truth I am not proud of. I am incredibly good at saying no to arrogant doctors, but I have never, not once, been good at saying no to him. I moved into the back bedroom of the ranch house, the one with the slanted ceiling, and I became his nurse, his accountant, and his maid. I did his books, I changed his surgical dressings, and I painstakingly counted his pills into a little blue plastic tray. At night, I would sit at the kitchen table with the ranch ledgers, and I'd feel that old familiar pull, the one I had spent a decade trying to outrun, the desperate, pathetic need to finally hear him say, I had done something right. That's the soft spot. Everybody has one. Mine, unfortunately, wore his face. The Mercer place sits on 400 acres of grass and gravel. Roy runs it like his own personal kingdom. His brother Wade lives in the second house past the cattle guard, managing the books I wasn't trusted to touch. And Cheryl, Roy's wife of 11 years, runs the main house along with her very clear, very low opinion of me. I called Roy Dad my entire life. He married my mother Ruth when I was 4. He adopted me when I was 6. And he buried her when I was 9. After that, it was just the 2 of us. And a phrase he repeated like grace before a meal, you eat my food, you sleep under my roof, you owe me. He said it when I asked for new winter boots. He said it when I made the honor roll. He said it the night I left for nursing school, like a massive bill finally coming due. I believed it. You don't examine the ground you stand on. You just stand on it. I didn't remember much of my mother, just the smell of her cold cream, a green coat, and being told she was resting until the day she wasn't. Roy's official story was that it was cancer, fast, nothing to be done. He kept exactly 1 photo of her in the entire house, face down in a junk drawer. Whenever I asked about my real father, his eyes would go flat. He's gone. He didn't want you. I'm what you got. By the time I was 12, I had built a whole man out of that silence, a coward, a ghost who looked at a baby and walked away. But there was a loose thread. The land we lived on was always called the Hartley place after my mother's family, yet it was legally Roy's ranch. Twice a year, a lawyer named Dale Apprentice would drive out town in a pressed suit, drinking whiskey on the porch and shuffling paperwork. I didn't know what a conservator was back then. I didn't know a dead mother could leave behind more than a green coat. I had been saving up for Roy's 60th birthday gift since the spring. I took that one singular photo of my mother, the one face down in the drawer, and sent it to a restoration shop in the city. It was cracked across the middle, water stained at the edges. They painstakingly rebuilt it. It showed my mother at 25, laughing with a young Roy beside her. I had it printed large and framed in heavy walnut. It cost me $400 and 3 months of picking up brutal extra shifts. I wasn't trying to buy his love. I'm not naive. I just wanted for once to hand him the one good thing we had both lost and watch his face do something other than tally up my debts. The barn was packed. 60 people, string lights, folding tables, every neighbor, deacon, and feed store owner Roy ever wanted to impress. He saved my gift for last, the smallest box. He loved a finale. He stood up so the whole barn could see. He tore the paper off in one violent rip. He looked down at my mother's beautifully restored face behind the good glass. For one single second, something moved behind his eyes. I saw it. Then, he set his jaw. He turned the frame around so the silent crowd could see it. Loud! He boomed. What kind of worthless junk did you give me? A few people nervously chuckled. They thought it was a joke. 22 years, he sneered. And this is what I get? A used picture? He dropped it onto the folding table, hard enough to crack the brand new glass, right across my mother's collarbone. I said his name just once, quietly. Roy, not Dad. He heard the shift in my tone. His hand came up before I even understood what was happening. Smack. He slapped me across the face in front of 60 people, under his pretty string lights. The low hum of conversation in the barn snapped clean in half. Somebody's fork clattered against a plate. His wife Cheryl let out an exasperated sigh, acting as if I had just embarrassed her. My cheek burned like a branding iron, my ears filled with roaring static, but I did the exact thing 9 years of trauma rooms had taught me to do. I did not react. I calmly picked up the heavy walnut frame. I set it upright facing him so my mother's cracked image could watch him for the rest of his pathetic party. Then I turned my back and I walked out the wide barn doors into the pitch-black night, down the gravel driveway onto the desolate county road. No keys, no plan, just one crystal-clear thought echoing in my head. I am done being owed. I walked the white line of the county road for 2 miles. The cold crept up off the fields. Suddenly, headlights swung across me from behind. A massive black SUV slowed down, rolling at a walking pace right alongside me. The passenger window rolled down. My body instantly dropped into the ready state, the one where your hands get very calm and your mind gets terrifyingly fast. A man's deep voice called out from the dark, "Are you Hildy?" I didn't stop walking. I memorized his license plate and immediately texted it to my friend Tessa. The truck stopped. The man put both hands on the top of the steering wheel where I could clearly see them. "I'm not going to touch you," he said gently. "I just need 90 seconds. He was older, maybe 60, gray at the temples. He reached slowly into the center console and pulled out a photograph. I stepped closer to the headlight beam and looked at it. It was a younger version of him in a desert tan military uniform, holding a newborn baby against his chest. On the back, in faded blue pen, were 3 words, "Ruth's girl, Hildy." "Hello, dear," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I am your biological father. My name is Russell Wheeler." My heart pounded against my ribs. Roy told me my father was dead. Roy told me he didn't want me. Russell and I met at a diner the next morning. He didn't ask for a hug. He just gave me the truth. When he was deployed overseas, my mother sent him a single letter claiming I had died of a fever. For 29 years, he grieved me. He even made a little stone memorial for me. But a year ago, his sister, my Aunt Marcy, got terminally ill. On her deathbed, she confessed the letter was a lie. My mother had been pressured into it. Marcy had kept a secret folder of documents for decades, too terrified of Roy to ever speak up. "Your mother didn't leave you a green coat," Russell told me, sliding a fat, weathered manila envelope across the diner table. "She left you the Hartley land and an account. When she died, the court put Roy in charge of it." Inside the envelope was a court appointment from the year I was 9, naming Roy Mercer as the conservator of the estate of a minor child. My blood ran ice cold. There had been money. There had been land. I immediately ordered a rush DNA test, and I marched straight to the Caldwell County Courthouse records room. I sat on a hardwood bench under a fluorescent light, and I opened the massive red folder the clerk handed me. Right there on the very first page of the inventory. Starting value of the estate, $312,000. My mother's life insurance, her savings, her land, held in trust for me. I flipped with trembling fingers to the final accounting report. The year I turned 18. The year I begged Roy for help with nursing school tuition, and he told me to take out loans. Closing balance, $400,000. I watched the theft happen in slow motion on the page. Tens of thousands of dollars drained out under the legal guise of food, shelter, clothing, and education. He hadn't been feeding me on his dime. He had been billing my own estate for the privilege of feeding me, and then verbally abusing me for being a burden. But the land was a fatal mistake. Tucked in the file was a quick claim deed, the 400 acres of Hartley land, transferred directly out of my estate and into a company called Mercer Ranch, LLC. For the sum of $1, he sold my multi-million-dollar inheritance to himself for a single dollar. And Dale Apprentice, the slick lawyer, had notarized it, taking fat checks directly from my drained account as payment. Every memory I had of my childhood replayed in my mind, but this time with a real ledger underneath it. The boots he made me cry over, paid for my account. The deck on his house, paid for my account. I didn't cry. Rage is loud and stupid. What I felt was entirely quiet and far more dangerous. Clarity. I hired a ruthless brick wall of a probate lawyer named Joan Avery. She took one look at the $1 deed and smiled a terrifying smile. "A conservator can't sell estate property to himself," she said softly. "That's self-dealing. It's voidable. And it stinks to a judge," from across the room. But we had a massive problem. The records clerk called me 2 days later. Roy had figured out someone pulled the file. He was panicking. He had initiated an emergency cash-out refinance on the land to strip all the equity and hide the money. It was going to close in days. Joan didn't flinch. We filed an emergency injunction. The DNA test came back that same afternoon, 99.99% probability. Russell Wheeler was my father. We went to war. The courtroom gallery was packed to the brim. Everyone who had been in that barn, everyone who watched him slap me, was sitting in the wooden pews. The deacons, the ranchers, Cheryl, the judge, a silver-haired woman with half glasses and zero patience, had immediately frozen the land parcel, stopping the dirty refinance dead in its tracks. Now, it was the full accounting hearing. Roy was forced to take the stand. He wore a crisp sport coat, playing the role of the dignified, betrayed patriarch. "I gave that girl a home," he practically cried to the judge. "I fed her, I clothed her, I put a roof over her head when nobody else would." Joan let him rant. Then she calmly stood up, clicked a laser pointer onto a projector screen showing his own bank transfers, and dismantled his entire life in under 10 minutes. "You fed her," Joan said softly. "With whose money?" Roy blinked. "Mine." The court examiner traced the food and clothing directly to the minor child's estate account, Joan corrected. "The land. You sold it to your own LLC for $1. Who approved that sale?" Roy looked at me for the first time all morning, and I just stared back, holding his eyes completely calm, the way you hold a patient's eyes right before you give them a terminal diagnosis. He completely snapped. "She'd have wasted it!" he screamed, his face turning violently red. He half-lunged out of his chair, spit flying from his lips. "I turned a worthless patch into a working ranch. I raised you. You owe me everything. You were always ungrateful." The judge slammed her gavel, echoing like a gunshot. "Does the petitioner wish to respond?" the judge asked me. I stood up. I didn't look at Roy. I looked directly at the gallery, at the neighbors, at his wife, and I spoke into the microphone, my voice steady and cold. "He didn't raise me," I said. "He sent me." The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the hum of the ceiling fans. The judge didn't even need to deliberate. She ruled from the bench. She found Roy Mercer guilty of egregious breach of fiduciary duty. She voided the $1 deed on the spot. She imposed a constructive trust, legally declaring that the 400 acres of land had always and still did belong to me. But she didn't stop there. She hit him with a financial surcharge for the $291,000 he stole, plus 22 years of interest. She ordered him to pay my attorney fees. She stripped his lawyer's license. And then she referred Roy Mercer to the district attorney for criminal fraud. Roy sat frozen in his chair, the mighty king of Caldwell County, suddenly realizing he was a peasant living on stolen dirt. That summer, Roy lost his kingdom. He was forced to sell his prize ranch at a public auction just to pay the massive legal surcharge he owed me. He was left with absolutely nothing. Cheryl filed for divorce a month later, proving exactly what her loyalty was worth. I kept the Hartley land. I leased the green grass out to a young, kind family now. Every quarter, a check arrives. It has my mother's name on the parcel, and my new legal name on the deposit slip, Hildy Wheeler. I framed my mother's restored photo with fresh glass. It hangs in my hallway now. And when my real father, Russell, comes over for Sunday dinners, he stops and smiles at it. So if there is a moral to this incredibly long story, it's this. When someone tells you over and over that you are a burden, when they demand you be grateful for the roof over your head and the food on your plate, don't just swallow the guilt. Go to the courthouse, pull the files, look at the ledger. Because sometimes the person calling you a burden is the one who has been secretly billing you for your own life. Thank you for listening.